rather thrilling story. On an icy night in 1984, a commuter plane crashed in the Canadian wilderness. 6 passengers died, but 4 survived. And we're going to hear from one of them, who has written a book titled Into the Abyss, which is about that crash. That is coming up in just a minute on 91.9 KVCR. Stay with us.
Support for KVCR comes from La Sierra University's School of Education. Advance your career with a master's, educational specialist, or doctoral degree. Professors blend a strong theoretical foundation with real-world perspectives and personal attention. Apply now for summer and fall classes. Information session sign-up at education.lasierra.edu.
Coming up after the news at 8 o'clock, the latest report about the tornado emergency in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's News 9 had this from the state's governor, Mary Fowler.
We're very worried about what we're going to find once we get into these communities and start going through the schools and the theater, the hospital, and the homes.
We're going to have the latest report on the developing story coming up at 8:10 this morning. Stay with 91.9 KVCR. On Inland Empire freeways, traffic on the westbound 91 through Corona to Orange County is still working its way through a slowdown that spans from the Magnolia Curve in Riverside to the 71, caused by no fewer than 3 incidents. The latest is a non-injury collision at Surface Club Drive. In downtown Riverside, there's an accident blocking the right lane of the eastbound 91 at 14th Street. In Moreno Valley, there is an accident blocking the shoulder of the westbound 60 at the Frederick/Pigeon Pass Road interchange. The northbound 250 a little slow approaching the Moreno Valley interchange. And we still have a big backup on the westbound 210 through Rancho Cucamonga to Claremont because of earlier accidents at 7:51.
On the night of October 19th, 1984, Eric Vogel was uneasy about flying, but the young pilot was behind schedule, and he felt like his job was on the line. So he took off, as he did most days, shuttling between remote communities dotting the Canadian wilderness.
It was snowing. The de-icer didn't work. The autopilot didn't work. And his co-pilot had been bumped to fit one more passenger on a 10-seater plane.
And in the middle of that, he's hearing these chunks of ice coming off the props and banging like rocks against the fuselage. And he made a calculation error. He thought he was past the high point, but there was another rise of land, 2,500 feet, and he hit the top of that rise. So it was a miracle that anyone got out of that plane alive.
Carol Shaben is the author of a book about that crash, a book called Into the Abyss. 6 people were killed. Shaben's own father, a politician named Larry Shaben, survived along with 3 others. The pilot, Eric Vogel, a prisoner named Paul Archambault, and the police officer escorting him.
Scott Deschamps was that Canadian Mountie. The moment before impact sticks with him all these years later.
If you're driving down the road in a car and you run off into the rough for a second, you hear that brr, and you pull back onto the road. And that's what I heard. Just for a second, something rough. And I remember thinking, the plane's not supposed to do that. And before I could even finish that thought, maybe a few seconds later, I just remember everything breaking apart. And that's the last I remember of the crash.
Okay, we now know the plane crashed through a bank of trees, and then as the fuselage plowed into the ground, upside